All right, so here, this is review solving equations. This is the third day. All right. So the thing you're going to notice different here is now we're going to have fractions. All right. We're still solving for x, but we have fractions now. And some students, as soon as they see fractions, they freak out and they say, "Forget it, they're done." All right. But the thing I want you to pay attention to is just look at the denominators. All right. Look at those denominators. Since some students they freak out when they see those denominators, when they see the fractions, I always tell them, say, let's get rid of the fractions and then you should be okay doing these problems. So the way we get rid of the fractions is, let's figure out what the least common multiple is. All right, let's figure out what that least common multiple. All right, so least common multiple. So all we're going to do is we're going to take the denominators 3 and 6. Now, this is not something that you're going to do every single time. Okay, trust me when I tell you this. This is stuff that you can do mentally, but I just want so that you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. So, what are the multiples of 3? Multiples of 3: 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and so forth. And then for the multiples of 6: 6, 12, 18, 24, and so on. Right, forever and ever. Now, least common multiple, least common, what's the smallest that they have in common? The smallest they have in common is 6. So the thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply everything by 6. All right. So I have my 1/3 x minus 7 is equal to 3 minus 5 over 6x. We're going to multiply everything, everything by that least common multiple, which was 6. And what happens is the fractions will go away. Now the trade off for the fractions going away is the numbers will get bigger, but the fraction will go away. Most students will say, you know what, I'd rather have bigger numbers than those fractions. Okay, so what I want to look at is 6 times 1/3. All right, 6 times 1/3. Well, I actually kind of look at it and say, all right, how many times will 6 go into 3? All right, so 6 divided by 3. 6 divided by 3 is going to be 2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 2 times whatever that numerator is. All right, now I'm going to stop right there because a lot of students sometimes they get confused and say, where'd all these numbers come from? Where did this 2 come from? All right, that 2 came from 6 divided by 3. All right. So what I asked was, how many times does 6 go into 3? Sorry, the other way around. How many times does 3 go into 6? Well, 3 goes into 6 2 times. So there's that 2. All right. That's where that 2 came from. And I'm just going to take that number and multiply it by the numerator. So 2 times 1 is 2. So I have 2x. Now I need to distribute this 6 to that 7. All right. 6 times -7, -42. All right. 6 times 3, 18. Minus. Now, one more time. How many times does 6 go into 6? Well, it goes one time. And then 1 times the numerator is 5. So 1 times 5 gives me 5, and I have to bring that x down. So you notice now the fractions go away, the numbers are bigger. All right, that's the trade-off. Okay, there's our trade-off. Now we're going to solve it just like we've always solved it. I want to move the smaller variable. So -5 is smaller than 2. So I'm going to add 5x to both sides. All right, so 2 plus 5 gives me 7x. Let's drag that 42 down. Let's drag that. Oh man, let me at least make it look like an 8. Okay, now because here's x. There's my x term on the left side. I have to get rid of everything that's on the same side as that. So what am I going to get rid of? I need to get rid of that -42. So I'm going to add 42 to both sides. Drag that 7x down. Negative 42 plus 42 goes away. 18 plus 42 gives me 60. And what am I going to do? Divide both sides by 7. Okay? So then I end up with x is equal to 60 over 7. And you grab your calculator and you can check to see if it's reduced. Remember how you check? You do 60. You're going to use your fraction key, so the ABC button. Some of you guys have this as your fraction key. And then you type in 7. Hit equal. And then you'll notice that it stays at 60 over 70. I mean, oh my God. Sorry. It stays at 60 over 7. Okay. But you might have to you're going to have to do second and then the fraction key again and then the equal sign to get it back to an improper fraction. All right, let's look at B. And at any point, if you guys want to pause the video and give the problem yourself, give it a try yourself and then let it play, by all means. All right, so I'm looking at this. I see my denominators 2, 4, all right, 4 and 2. Well, I don't necessarily have to go through this mess again. 2 and 4, well, it should be kind of obvious. I'm hoping that I'm going to multiply everything by 4. All right, so I'm going to multiply everything by 4. Oops, sorry, I mean to erase the parentheses. All right, so 2 goes into 4 2 times, and then I'm going to multiply by the numerator. All right, so 2 times 7 is 14, and it just happened to be negative. All my sloppy writing on there. All right, minus 4 goes into 4 one time times that numerator. So then it's going to be minus 11x. Okay, so far so good. Same thing over here on the right side of the equal sign. 4 goes into 4 one time. 1 times 5. So this ends up equaling negative 5. Plus, we have 2 goes into 4. All right, 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 times that numerator. So we end up with 2. And then I bring the, oops, sorry, let me stay consistent with the colors. All right, 2x. Now again, the fractions go away. The numbers got bigger, but the fractions are gone. So I want to move the smaller variable just like I've always done. So I'm going to add 11x to both sides. So I have negative 14 is equal to negative 5 plus 13x. And then I'm going to add 5 because here's my variable on the right side of the equal sign. I have to get rid of everything that's on the same side, trying to get rid of everything that's on that side. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Negative 14 plus 5 gives me negative 9 is equal to 13x. Divide both sides by 13. So I have negative 9 over 13 is equal to x. It can't be reduced. All right, let's look at this last one. All right, for these problems. Denominators 3, 5, and 5. So in this case, the common denominator, that least common multiple, is going to be 15. All right, it's going to be 15. Sometimes it's just easier just to multiply the numbers together. All right, so 3 times 5 is 15. Sometimes it's just that easy. All right, so now let's think about this. How many times does 3 go into 15. 3 goes into 15 5 times. 5 times that numerator, which is 8, is going to give me 40. So it's actually a negative 40x, because if I erase all that mess, you see the negative out in front. Okay? All right. Is equal to, oops, is equal to. Now over here, how many times does 5 go into 15? Well, it goes 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. So it's actually going to be negative 6x, because again, we had, that there's that negative sitting right there. Right? Just getting sloppy with everything. If I erase everything, there's that negative. Okay. One more time. 5 goes into 15 3 times. 3 times 4 gives me 12. Well, in this case, this one's positive. Plus, now I'm just going to distribute just like I've always distributed. All right, 2 times 15, because it's not a fraction, is 30. Okay, again, you'll notice fractions are gone. The numbers are bigger, but the fractions are gone. Now, combine like terms. All right, so I have positive 12 plus 30. There's my like terms. So I have negative 40x is equal to negative 6x plus 42. Now, in this case, I always talk about moving the smaller variable. Well, negative 40 is actually smaller than negative 6. But if I move it, all right, if I move that, I have plus 40x is equal to plus 40x. What happens there? I end up with 0 is equal to 34x plus 42. All right, not really a fan of that. I'm not really a fan of having that 0. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to kind of back up a little bit. I'm going to retrace my steps. All right, hopefully I don't aggravate you too bad with what I just did. All right, even though negative 40 was the smaller one, I don't want to get that 0 like I did. So in this case, I'm actually going to add 6x to both sides. Now in this case, I'm going to end up with negative 34x on this. Oh, sorry, I'm going to stay consistent with the colors. I'm going to end up with negative 34x right there. That cancels, is equal to 42. Okay, so we got a negative there, but at least now I don't have a 0 confusing me. All right, because sometimes that gets a little bit confusing. So now I'm going to divide both sides by negative 34. So I have x is equal to negative 42 over 34. Well, I know that I can reduce that because, all right, the reason why I know I can reduce that is they're both even numbers. They're both even numbers. So I could either say, all right, I can divide it by 2, start going through that, or I could grab my calculator. I think we've talked about this enough where we say, all right, 42 fraction bar 34. All right. And then whatever your answer is, you're going to have to hit second, the fraction bar again, and then equal. And what are you going to end up with? Negative 21 over 17. And yes, you do have to reduce, or your answer is technically wrong. All right. So you do have to reduce it. Now, here is my very last problem. This one, I'll save this ugliest one for last. We have to distribute. Okay. So let's distribute first before we do anything. So we're going to distribute. And now when you distribute, let's think about this as having a 1 underneath it. All right. Think about that having a 1 underneath it. And how do we multiply fractions? We multiply straight across. So numerator times numerator, all right? Top number times top number, denominator times denominator, the bottom number times the bottom number. So I have negative 11 times 3x. So that ends up being negative 33x over 4 times 1 over 4. All right, same thing here. I'm going to multiply negative, I'm going to multiply negative 11. All right, so I'm running out of different colors here. I'm going to multiply 11 times 50 times 5. So I'm going to end up with negative 55. And then 4 times 4, which is going to give me 16. All right, so I multiply straight across. Equals. All right, the right side is pretty set already. All right, the right side is pretty set. Oh, and I apologize, guys. There was supposed to be an X right there. I forgot to type that in. Okay, sorry about that. There was supposed to be an X in that problem. All right, so please make sure we fix this. All right, there was supposed to be an X right there, and I forgot to type it in. All right. So one thing I want you guys noticing is, do you notice how here I have the X in the numerator, and then over here I have the X right next to it? They mean the same exact thing. All right, it means the same exact thing. So it doesn't matter where you write. It doesn't matter where you write the X. There, what happened there? They're exactly the same. So this and this are exactly the same. So you can either have the X in the numerator position, so up on top, like I have right here, or you could have it in the right next to it. Right? You can have it right next to it, and it still means the same thing. The only place that you cannot write it, is you cannot write it as negative 33 over 4x in the denominator. This is totally different. All right, so this right here is not the same. So don't write it in the bottom. All right, that's a totally different problem. There are problems like that, but that we're not doing that. Okay, we're not going to do that. All right. So now I'm looking at these these denominators. All right, there's 4, there's 16, 16, and 4. Well, if we think about it, least common multiple is going to be 16. So I'm going to multiply everything by 16. Okay. So let me erase some of these colors here because it's getting to be a bit much. Okay. So, like I was saying earlier, 4 goes into 16 4 times. So 4 times that 33. All right, so 4 times 33. All right, I had to get my calculator out because I'm not that smart. All right, so 4 times that negative 33, we end up with negative 132x. And then 16 goes into 16 one time times 55. So, oh, sorry, minus 55. All right, again, you're noticing the numbers are getting big, but the fractions are going away. All right, over here on the right side, 16 goes into 16 one time. 1 times 11 is 11. All right, last time we have to do this. 4 goes into 16 4 times. 4 times 7 is 28, so minus 28x. Now we solve just like we've always solved. Okay, nothing tricky here. So I'm going to move the smaller variable. So I'm going to add 132 to both sides. Okay, and get your calculator out so you ain't got to think about these big numbers. All right, so that cancels, is equal to 11 plus 104x. Now I'm going to subtract 11 from both sides. All right, subtracting 11 from both sides, we end up with negative 66 is equal to, that cancels, 104x. Dividing both sides by 104. All right, we have x is equal to negative 66 over 104. But like I said in the previous problem, I know I can reduce that because both of those numbers are even. So I'm just going to grab my calculator, and just like we talked about earlier, I'm going to type in 66, that fraction key, the ABC button, and 104. I'm going to hit equal. And this time, the calculator is just going to spit it out. It's not going to be an improper fraction. So the calculator is going to spit out negative 33 over 52. Let me at least make this look like a 3. All right, so again, negative 33 over 52. I hope this helps. Please make sure you're asking questions. All right.